justice for all.
And roll call, please.
Mr. Bechtold?
Here.
Mr. Harrison?
Here.
Mr. Hollabach? Here. Mr. Maltese? Here. Mr. Aresic?
Here.
Mr. Banks?
Here.
Mr. Stark?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, approval of the August 28, 2025 minutes. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, or modifications? If no, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please. I guess I should say further discussion. Anybody? Last minute changes? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bechtold?
Yes.
Mr. Maltese?
Yes.
Mr. Aresic?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Hollabach?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, Mr. Shirk, any comments from the supervisors for us today?
No, sir.
Being none, moving on to the next item. Old business. Mispronounced this name again, but I'm going to try. Froehlich.
Yeah.
Old German pronunciation, right?
There you go. Well, started there. We said Froehlich, and then it got, changed from there. Everybody's got their own version of it.
I got it right, so.
Yeah.
Okay, the Froehlich and Barrett subdivision plan preliminary and final approval. I heard there is an applicant presentation.
Yes, there
Please
is.
come forward. Remember to state your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is James Froehlich. I reside at 11 Laywood Drive here in West Ear. And tonight I'm going to present what we call the Froehlich Barrett Subdivision Consolidation Plan. And there it is on the slide. This plan has been created to facilitate the sale of 2 acres of my property to my neighbor John Barrett, who's present here tonight, and to preserve 4 acres of forest land that may be sold to my neighbor Destin Saheen, and contingent on the approval of this plan. It also creates access for tax parcel 2010N303, which is currently landlocked. So this is our current property line between my parcel 2010J198 and John Barrett's home and his farm. You can see the property line goes right through his house and his garage. And this plan will create parcel 1, which fixes this problem. Gives John a little breathing room there. And then as mentioned, there's also another parcel, 2010N303, which is currently landlocked. And this plan creates parcel 3, and that will give it access to Barrettford Road. You know how you guys love access? Yes. Okay. All right, finally, this plan will create a new lot, parcel 4, that will be a standalone lot that will remain in its current state of forest land as a result of a non-building waiver of being applied to parcel 4. The creation of this lot will serve the public interest by preserving 4 acres of forest land and by shielding our neighbor Dustin Sidhe and the entire Laywood Drive community from any development of what will remain of tax parcel J198. If this parcel 4 is to remain a part of J198, then it has the potential to be a part of a large development that will ultimately destroy its natural condition. And by dividing each side of J198 to serve John Barrett and to create that parcel 4, then a new parcel, parcel 2 is created. To gain approval of our plan, we are hereby requesting a modification from the requirements of West Deer Township Subdivision Ordinance Code Sections 185-26G1 and 185-25C. We contend that by strictly enforcing the requirements of the aforementioned code sections, we will face undue hardship, and in addition, we also contend that no detriment to the public interest will occur if these modifications are granted. Okay, these are the general standards for recommending a proposal to the Board of Supervisors. It says where the Board of Supervisors find that undue hardships may result from the literal enforcement of this chapter, or when an alternate standard can be demonstrated to provide equal or better results, it may grant a modification from the regulations so that substantial justice may be done and the public interest secured. And we feel strongly that we will be meeting all that of the standard, provided that such variation will not have the effect of nullifying the intent and purpose of the West Deer Township Comprehensive Plan, this chapter, or any other applicable ordinance. All requests for a modification or waiver shall be in writing and shall accompany and be a part of the application for development. The request shall state in full the grounds and facts of unreasonableness or hardship on which the request is based, the provision or provisions of the chapters involved, and the minimum modification or waiver necessary. And so these are the standards, I think, by which to judge our request for modification and our plan overall. Okay, we paid MDM surveyors and engineers to survey our property, create the subdivision plan, and craft this request for modification letter. Howard G. McIll-Reed, a professional land surveyor and owner of MDM for over 27 years. And Chris Jackson, also a distinguished professional land surveyor since 2016 and part owner of MDM since 2020, worked directly with our township engineer, Mr. Scott Shoup, who, according to his firm's website, has been a professional engineer since 1990 and a professional land surveyor since 1993 to ensure that this letter meets the standards expressed in section 185.9. So, 3 professional surveyors with almost 60 years of combined experience worked together to create this request for modification letter that will, I think, meet the commission's approval. Our request for modification both protects the interests of the citizens of West Deer Township and creates beneficial forest land that may serve them for decades, perhaps even centuries. Frankly, I think that these gentlemen have done a great job, and I'm personally grateful for their work and for the assistance of others associated with this process who have helped me in the journey to get this plan approved. And I just want to say to the board, thanks for your grace, and you were gracious to us to get us to this point, so we do appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so before we dig into the requests, let me point out 2 things. Notice in the upper left-hand corner is 2810 2010 J198, and that's where parcel 4 is going to be. And you can see it has a little, in the southeast corner, it just barely touches Leywood Drive. But the Leywood Drive plan was created, I think, in 1990 or sometime around then. And at the time, they allowed more parcels in the plan than they currently do. So you'll notice that there are 4 residences on Leywood Drive, and each one of them has an extra parcel of land aside from where their dwelling resides. So number 1 is our neighbor Jill Nolan, and behind hers parcel N301. Parcels 2 that I have numbered here, 2 and 3, which is 285 and 284, belong to Ron and Nancy Anderson, and they're in the northeast corner along of this slide, along Middle Road Extension. It should be noted that parcel N285 is too small to ever be built on. My residence is parcel N120 that has a big red number 4 on it. That's where my home is, and you can see we have a driveway out to Leywood Drive. And then we also own N132, which is the number 5 there, and that has access to Middle Road Extension and Leywood Drive. And then what I'm calling 6 and 7, parcels 221, and I can't read the other one. But anyways, those are owned by John and Nancy Lemrow. And again, it's a situation where there's a dwelling with the driveway and then a separate land parcel. And then last but not least, number 8 is parcel 209 S71, which is owned by my friend and neighbor, Dustin Saheen. And he only has 1 parcel, but again, he's on Leywood Drive. So you can see we have all these parcels, but we really only have 4 driveways onto Leywood Drive. So that's something that needs to be understood to understand our request for modification. Okay. This is parcel 4 of the plan. And currently, this parcel would not have the required 50 feet of frontage along a public or private street per the requirements of Western Township Subdivision Ordinance Code, Section 185-25C. And that section requires 50 foot of frontage. So we're going to request a modification from this requirement. I just want to point out that this plan will not add any new driveways to Leywood Drive. So we are requesting a modification from the requirements of Code Sections 185-26(1) and 25C. And we'll address 25C first. One of our needs for modification stems from Code Section 25C, which requires that every lot shall have a public or private street with a minimum frontage of 50 feet. And as I've said, currently parcel 4 in the plan does not have the minimum 50 feet of frontage onto a street. Parcel 4, as I've said, abuts the property of our neighbor Dustin Saheen to the south. And Dustin has said publicly at the last meeting of this commission that he would gladly grant an easement to fulfill the requirements of 185-25C. And I'm sure he'll say it again tonight if he's asked to. We'll check. Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. All right, before we go deeper into the subject of granting access to parcel 4, please note that nobody in the neighborhood wants parcel 4 developed. In fact, the main benefit to the public interest lies in the creation of this parcel to remain forest land and to shield Leywood Drive from any future development on this parcel 4. And just a side note, that's one of the major reasons that we even own this land, is because my wife and I prefer to keep it wild. And we bought it from a friendly neighbor who is our mortgager. So we are very, I'm a veteran, and it took me a long time to settle in and have a home, and my home now is here in West Ear. And so I've made it my life's work. I don't know how to describe it, but I do try to make friends with my neighbors. I try to get along with them, and that's an important part. That's what's missing from my life until now. So that's a big reason I'm motivated to do these things. So, like I said, we have taken 3 steps to ensure that parcel 4 remains forest land. The first one is the request for modification letter itself, committing us to keeping parcel 4 as forest land. The creation of this parcel will guarantee that this land will remain forest land. Approval of this plan will seal that commitment. So the letter says a benefit to the public interest will occur by separating this parcel from the larger parcel of which it is currently part, thereby preserving 4 acres of forest land. If this parcel is to remain a part of the larger parcel, then it has the potential to be part of a large development that will ultimately destroy its natural conditions. The second step that we've taken is committing publicly at this meeting and prior meetings to keeping parcel 4 as forest land. And most importantly, there is a non-building waiver request right on the plan. And what this says is, as of the date of the subdivision plan recording parcel 4 of the subdivision described herein is and shall be dedicated for the express purpose of vacant forest land. So, we're doing everything we can to nail this down because we do want to keep it forest land. Okay, part of this process is filing a request for planning waiver and non-building declaration with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, Bureau of Clean Water. And this says plainly, no facility or building will be erected on the subdivided lot, either now or in the future, that will result in the generation of sewage requiring a permit or planning under the Pennsylvania Sewage Facilities Act or the Pennsylvania Clean Streams Act. We expect that if this plan is approved, it will be on condition that we submit an application for a non-building waiver to the PEA, Department of Environmental Resources. Okay, so back to code section 185.25C. With nothing being built on this lot, there's little, if any, reason to have an easement from Leywood Drive to parcel 4 at this time, other than to literally comply with the section 185.25C requirements of the municipal code. If we grant the easement onto Leywood Drive, which we're glad to do to comply with the code, that creates a problem with another ordinance, 185.26G1. While we understand why the township requires non-landlocked parcels, still in this case, the access requirement imposes an undue hardship on the landowner by creating a conflict with another ordinance. It's a unique it's the unique location of parcel 4, plus the fact that it is bounded by a steep hill and forest land that creates the undue hardship. There's no other place to create this frontage other than onto Lakewood Drive. So, as I said, we're glad to create this easement, but we believe it's unreasonable that approval of the plan will be denied because of it. There's no harm in creating the easement to meet the requirements of the ordinance. In fact, creating the easement results in a benefit to the public, which is the forest land. However, granting the easements creates a hardship by bringing into play ordinance 185-26G1. If there's no easement, then there's no problem with 26G1, but without the easement, we violate 185-25C. But there's no other place to gain the necessary 50 foot of frontage onto a public or private street. It's a catch-22 that only our request for modification will resolve. I will say that by adding the easement, will not cause any harm for reasons I'm about to discuss. Should the commission and the board of supervisors grant this request for modification, we expect that the approval of the plan will be conditional on submitting easement paperwork. So here's the other ordinance, 185-26G1. We also request the modification of section 185-26G1 of the municipal code. It says a maximum of 4 lots plus a residual parcel containing 1 existing residential structure may be approved for access on a private street. Presumably, the intent of this provision is that West Deer Township doesn't want too many houses or too much traffic or too many parcels on any private drive, and that's reasonable. In this case, however, we are caught in an undue hardship when forced to add access to this dedicated forest land in order to comply with 185-25C. Our request for modification points out the following. No need for additional access. It says since this lot will not be developed, there will be no need for additional access to Lakewood Drive to accommodate this lot. However, an access easement will be provided for this lot because it does not have the required 50 feet of frontage along a public or private street per West Deer Township Subdivision Ordinance Code 185-25C. And this is again from the request for modification letter. It says in reality, and these are the words of Howard McIlreed, who's an experienced professional surveyor, and it was reviewed by our township engineers, Mr. Shute, and also Chris Jackson worked on it. This says, in reality, this easement is not necessary since parcel 4 will not be developed, and if Dustin Saheen buys the property, he will be able to access parcel 4 from his existing property. Okay, and finally, in the letter, they point out that the character of the neighborhood will not change. Because parcel 4 of the plan will not be developed, no additional traffic above what is already existing along Lakewood Drive will occur with no detriment to the public interest. The character of the neighborhood will not change because no additional building lots will be created and no new property owners will be introduced along Lakewood Drive. We should also point out that the parcels around Lakewood Drive already don't conform with 26G1. Creating parcel form does not create the non-conformity. We're not making the situation any more non-conforming than it already is. In fact, the only reason the neighborhood is the way, parceled out the way it is because that's the way they did it when they set it up. So that creates a hardship for us because, you know, we're doing this in an environment where these things are already set up to create these conflicts. Please note that per Chapter 185.9 General Standards, we're asking for the least possible modification by adding only one parcel and no driveway. So we're adding a new parcel with access to Lakewood Drive because of an undue hardship, but this parcel is benign because it can't be built on. The presence of parcel 4 will have zero impact on the Lakewood Drive neighborhood. It doesn't seem reasonable to enforce ordinance 185 G1, 26 G1 in a situation where the entire neighborhood is already non-conforming, where all the neighbors have lots that contribute to the non-conformance, where the lot in question requires an easement that causes an undue hardship, and that easement is actually unnecessary because the lot will never be built on. Thus, the lot will never need a driveway and will never produce traffic that will clog the local private drive. As in the case of ordinance 185-25C, denying a modification to 185-26G1 simply blocks the approval of this plan while providing little or no discernible benefit to the public, thereby creating undue hardship for the plan participants and the loss of beneficial forest land. However, granting this request for modification will establish parcel 4 as 4 acres of beautiful forest land. And here we are. The whole point of this is the beautiful forest land. And, you know, we talk about the public interest, and it's important to remember that there are people in the public who do love forest land and who come to West Ear because they want to live in a place that has this kind of natural beauty. So I'd like to point out that our request for planning waiver and non-building declaration is going to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection Bureau of Clean Water, and that this waiver is a great way to protect forest land. And I only point that out because maybe the people who came up with that waiver idea, maybe they had in mind this very purpose for it. So anyways, there's no doubt that the 4 acres of forest has benefit to this community. This forest already filters water that runs off what we call Nolan's Hill, okay? Nolan's Hill is one of the highest points in Allegheny County, and during World War II, they actually built an observation platform on it so they could keep watch over the skies north of Pittsburgh. So it's a pretty good hill, and when it rains, a considerable amount of water comes off this hill through the forest into our driveway, on through Lakewood Drive. Okay, had to build a nice big ditch to handle it all, but it eventually goes through the watershed to, the Allegheny River and the Ohio and beyond. So the forest will continue to prevent erosion of its underlying soil. Its leaves will provide oxygen and shade, and as we see in the picture, the same leaves turn beautiful colors in the fall. The forest will provide habitat for turkey and deer and other animals. The soil is brimming with life, worms, insects, microbes, fungi, and much more. People like my neighbors John and Dustin may hunt in this forest. The forest can provide solitude. It can be a place for children to play. Its fallen wood may be the source of a warm December bonfire, and it will turn lush and green in the spring. One day, if you really think about this, this may be the only forest left standing around here because of this, what we're doing here tonight. So this is good that we preserve it. And this plan is exactly the way to do it. So I think that we have made it clear that the Froehlich Barrett subdivision consolidation plan causes no harm and has a tangible benefit to the public. We contend that by strictly enforcing the requirements of the aforementioned code sections, it's unreasonable to do that and that we'll face undue hardship. In addition, we also contend that no detriment to the public interest will occur if these modifications are granted. We further stipulate that the modifications will not have the effect of nullifying the intent and purpose of the West Deer Township Comprehensive Plan. So with the standards expressed by West Deer Code Ordinance 185-9 in mind, we ask that you recommend that the Board of Supervisors grant a modification or waiver from these regulations so that substantial justice may be done and the public interest secured, conditional on submitting easement paperwork and an application for a non-binding waiver for parcel 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up, engineer staff comments.
So, as I discussed last month, the same 3 comments kind of remain, one of which was the sewage issue, which Mr. Froehlich talked about at length. At the time, I was not sold that the non-building waiver was going to be applicable, but I did speak with DEP, and they advised that, yes, if the township supervisors approve the non-building waiver, that note is on the plan. He said they will approve it down at DEP, which would at a minimum, defer development of that lot until sewage planning is done in the future. The 2 modifications, the lack of frontage, by providing an easement, which is going to, I think, exceed 50 feet in width, or be at least 50 feet in width, in essence, would provide the equivalent of frontage. So, just from a personal standpoint, I don't know that that's necessarily an issue. The second modification request for the number of lots, again, Mr. Froehlich did a very nice job explaining the reasoning for the request. That's something for the commission to decide.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone here from the public have any comments on this particular plan?
Dave Calavoda, 702 Crystal Spring Court. One of the things I was listening to Mr. Froehlich's presentation, I found it interesting that he is going to leave 4 acres of forest. And I just want to say that my wife and I love walking around here in the forest. That's one of the reasons we like this area so much. And I think the fact that he's going to leave it like that, there's going to be more wildlife there, is something to consider when you're discussing this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Vicki Austin, Hemlock Street. I want to commend you on your presentation. That was very professional. You've come a long way since the first presentation. It's not easy. I see it's a struggle.
I did have help. I got some hints from people, and I do appreciate it.
And I wanted to say, with all the developments that we're considering throughout West Deer that are going to have great impacts on traffic and on our roadways, this is a small development that will have literally no impact on any traffic, no increased traffic, no increased need for road maintenance, and it will benefit the township and the people and the wildlife by having the 4 acres of wooded land. So I want to commend you, and I heartily support your efforts.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? All right, public comment period is now closed. Planning commission discussion.
I have a few questions. You spoke about this being a problem. What's the problem that this solves?
Well, one thing, the preservation of forest land is always a good thing, so.
I totally agree. Creating another lot, I don't think that's preservation of forest land.
It does preserve this because that lot being a standalone lot, if the other property is sold, then this lot will stay the way it is. That's the
I
plan.
wasn't here 2 months ago, whenever you first came to us. And last month, whenever you came and you talked to us, I believe that you said the creation of this lot was to sell the land rights to this parcel, this piece of area. Sell the land rights to your neighbor, and you retain the gas rights.
No, I absolutely did not say that. You can look on the video and you will see I did not.
So
We
the
don't
gas
have-
rights are gonna convey with the
We-
sale of this lot?
We don't have the mineral rights to our property.
Oh, nobody had,
Dustin has the mineral rights to his.
so he wants
Why
to
don't
buy-
I have the mineral rights?
Well,
because,
That I don't, yeah.
yeah.
I'm
because-
just getting to the point why this needs to be done. You had said that you want to sell this property to your neighbor.
Well, that's.
Mr. Bethel, if you don't mind, I think there was mention of complications having to do with gas, but I think that's a bit outside of our purview.
Right.
And I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason why a lot line revision was not done it's their call.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it was their call that they didn't want to do that. So this is the
Because
direction they
if
went.
you're selling the land to your neighbor, it's a simple lot line revision.
But they did look at that.
And why wasn't a lot line revision done? We're here, this is thousands of dollars in engineering and time spent.
Because, as we're saying, one of the chief ideas in doing this is preserving this forest land. And if it's melded into his property, that doesn't necessarily protect it in the way this does.
I think what we have to do is look at the way it's presented. I mean, we can't, similar to what we talked about before, we can't do their design for them. I mean, I understand your question, I had the exact same question initially, but this is where we are now. So I would ask that we consider the plan as presented.
Okay. Whenever you talk about creating the forest land and it remaining forest land, creating another lot, I totally agree with no access granted, because it doesn't need to be any access granted, 50-foot right away, I mean, because it will never be built on. With it being preserved forest land, and like our people from the township said they enjoy walking around, is this gonna be made public? Are they gonna be able to come onto the forest land and walk around?
We allow hunting on our land. Our land is not posted.
Okay. So it'll be open to the public?
I don't think that's also something that the planning commission really needs to be. I mean, it's up to them, it's their private property.
Well, they're asking us for a variance, pretty large variance.
No, we're not zoning hearing board. They're asking us for a modification based on their application. And I think that, when you look at the requirements for a modification, that it's for the public good, one could argue that. Their position is that this will stay forested essentially in perpetuity, which doesn't certainly sound like it's against the
A question for Scott is, does the Allegheny County Economic Development, what do they have in this? Do they have to grant approval for a non-buildable lot?
I mean, they, I assume already have reviewed the same subdivision plan you have, but they're only commenting on the subdivision itself, county economic development. The non-building waiver part is a DEP issue, although in this case, county health department will be involved, and I did convey to MPM that there's a section that county health will need to sign off on that document. But no, economic development is not involved.
Economic development doesn't have anything to do with it.
No,
I understand about the sewage plant.
Yeah, I guess I looked at just, I have not seen comments from economic development. I know
No.
sometimes they do not respond.
No, they have not responded to this one, no.
Do they need to?
I mean, it's their choice with any plan or not. I mean, we send them the information and they respond if they so choose or they don't.
Yeah, what we often see is that the board of supervisors can't act until the county's been given 30 days to review. And we often see on these smaller subdivisions, and it may be a manpower issue at the county, but they often don't return comments like this.
Okay.
But Bob, to your point, one of the things I was thinking about here is, you know, if we were to recommend approval with the modifications requested, Mr. Solicitor, please stop me if I'm going too far.
Stop.
I was thinking that it might actually make more sense for a modification to 18525C to not require access to Lakewood Drive, as it will not be a developed parcel. So the modification would actually be to not require that.
See, my concern there is, ownership of these parcels changes, right? And then I think we really, despite the fact that it has a non-building waiver, you really want to avoid ever creating a lot that's completely landlocked. And so that, even though practically it might not have that much impact, especially if the gentleman purchases it and they're right next door to each other, but it's hard to recommend creating a lot that's completely landlocked, just because you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Agreed. The only reason why I was thinking that did make sense is because the stated purpose is it's never to be built on. This actually gives you, in my opinion, another layer of protection that it won't, because there's no access.
Exactly.
See, a non-building waiver it's an acknowledgement to the public, because it's recorded on the plan here, and approved by the township and DEP. An acknowledgement that parcel is not buildable, buy it at your own risk. Having said that, theoretically, if somebody does sewage planning in the future, it could be developed, so you want to have access. You definitely, I wholeheartedly agree, you never want to create a landlocked parcel.
Yeah, I think, and thanks for that clarification, Scott, because I don't have a lot of experience with these non-voting waivers, but it makes total sense that it's not a forever, it's not like a conservation easement that you are restricting development of this property forever. It is, under this subdivision plan, buyer be warned that if you purchase this, you're not able to get sewage, but a future developer could. That's not like a permanent restriction on development of this property.
Whenever we say sewage, are we talking with the sewage facilities plan module? We're not talking public sewage coming up Lakewood Lane. We're talking it conforming with an on-lot sewage system. So if the lot is created and if it has 50 foot of frontage, somebody could buy it, go get on-lot sewage approved by Allegheny County and build on
I don't think so, and if with this non-building waiver or with this subdivision plan, because I think, Scott will definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I think because the county's signing off on this, they are also acknowledging that under this plan, because of this building waiver, they're not going to grant any kind of sewage facility approval. Is that your understanding, Scott?
No, not necessarily. I mean, over time, I mean, with proper testing and so forth, the non-building waiver can be lifted.
it. And we're in West Deer, we know what on-lot sewage is and to go through to get everything. So you're saying that even if he says, and we create this lot, and it's to be remain forest and all that, non-building, in 2 years, it could be sold, somebody can come on, DEP comes out, digs the test, does the part, grants a sand bond, it's a buildable lot.
I'm not sure it'd be quite that simple, but yeah, it is possible it can be a buildable lot in the future, yes.
So I guess to the extent that we're talking about access, I think all the more reason to ensure that we do include an access easement and sort of recognize that this is not, like I said, an in perpetuity sort of.
Well, if we get that access, we're saying, hey, here's a buildable lot. You got your access, you can go down and do your DEP sewage facilities planning module, and boom.
I think Scott said it wasn't that simple, specifically, but it's possible. I think to your point, it sounds like it's possible. I guess I am not an expert in that particular building waiver, so I'll defer to the township
I
engineer.
believe that the waiver does say that this would have to be signed off by the township and the county. So it's not easy. It's, if you don't, just like me standing for this commission, whoever wanted to develop, do that, would have to pass through, the examination of boards and our government, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the process is.
Right, but I think the waiver does say that, so I think that it won't be easy. If Westier doesn't want that to happen, then they certainly have a say in it.
I think the other thing that supports this is in the highlight, the last part of it, dedicated for the express purpose of vacant forest land, I think is also very helpful. Because then at least the intent is then going to be recorded as part of this plan. Not saying that can't be changed, but I think that that's pretty strong wording.
I think it's pretty plain that it's being created for the purpose of remaining vacant. So,
Scott, can I ask you, would this be the sort of waiver that the rest of the subdivision plan owners, would they have to, in concert, agree to lift that, do you know? Is it one of those, it's arguably a benefit to the owners of those individuals in the plan, sort of like an access type easement where?
I don't know. I mean, these are so few and far between. Let me just read you one sentence from the DEP instruction for a non-building waiver. It says, in consideration of claims that since there is no present or future need for sewage disposal facilities on a given site and the completion of sewage facilities planning need not be required, DEP created this waiver request and declaration form to allow individuals proposing strictly non-building subdivisions to document that they may qualify for a waiver for these planning requirements. And there's a lot more than that, but that's the intent of the non-building waiver in the first place. Where I've seen it used in the past, primarily has been for settlement estates. You have 3 heirs and you need to subdivide property because that's what the estate wants. And you subdivide it and deal with sewage later. But I did talk to DEP, they said this would be an allowable use in this instance.
Well, Scott, how do you reconcile the conflicts that he mentioned, between if we get the waiver, then we're in violation of this one, and what's the best way to approve this with the modification?
Well, if it was to be approved, I would recommend that both modifications be approved, but there was a requirement that they prepare and record the access easement that Mr. Saheen had offered last month, so that there is no landlocked parcel.
Scott, we talked about, Mr. Froehlich talked about the catch-22 by creating that easement. And what would another waiver cover him? Is that, I lost track of the numbers, 185-25C then? If the easement were created, would we only need one waiver then to approve this?
No, I think it's two.
You need 2 still.
Yeah, you would still need 2.
And if the easement isn't created, we still need the 2?
I guess one way to look at it would be, you just need the one, because you're creating a lot without any kind of frontage.
Although,
But I would not recommend that.
yeah, and because it's already in violation of that code provision, because there's 7 lots, even though I understand that there's only 4 driveways, I think you'd essentially be approving another subdivision with more than 4 lots. I think you need the waiver either way.
Correct. The more I think about it, you would need the waiver for both, because there would be nothing to prevent Mr. Saheen in the future from creating a 50-foot easement over to it that you would not even know about, and then somehow gets developed, so.
What would the problem with that be? In the future, if there was an easement created and it was a buildable lot at that point?
Well,
Because when this subdivision was created in
71.
71, did we even have the subdivision minimum
I don't know.
Lot numbers?
I mean, I can tell you, surveying 101, and I'm not gonna speak for law 101, is thou shalt not create landlocked parcels. So, I mean, that's just a no-no. Because they're out there, there's not a lot of them. And you think, well, why is it a parcel landlocked? It's because of somebody wanting to do something like this. And it creates a lot of problems in the future.
You think the
I just
easiest
want to
way
point
is-
out that this plan unlocks one of the parcels, so that's another benefit of the plan.
So if the easement is created, we have 2 waivers and everything's approved. Now that easement is on paper only. I mean, you never have to use it if you don't want to.
Correct.
And what's your opposition to doing that, or there was no opposition?
There's no opposition.
Nobody-
If Mr. Sahin, if he does buy the parcel, then there won't even be a need for that easement.
Okay, and no one has a problem with the number of lots off of the private drive then either? I don't. Because I'm looking at some of these, and Middle Road Extension and Hunter Road, a lot of them border that. Other easements could be created in the future to get access to some of these lots. And these lots are so large that in 30 or 40 years, if a developer came in, I think this whole plan would be redesigned. I don't like to leave a problem for a future board, but I don't think this is gonna be an issue here. And typically, we don't grant these waivers in these landlocks because of developers wanting to landlock something, and then later on down the road, you can see their evil intentions that are profit, that are there just for profit. Again, I don't see the issue with this either because of the waivers they put on the site plan right here. I can't even read the small print, but they're agreeing not to develop it.
Mr. Holloway, would you care to make a motion?
I'll make well, how do you want to state this motion? Maybe I'm gonna ask Mr. Robb this, or Mr. Shoup. Are we going to have them create the easement then and grant 2 waivers? Do you need the numbers to the amendments too, or can we fill that in later?
I mean, I think because we have a written modification request in front of us that we can make part of the record, it can be conveyed to the supervisors. I don't think you need to get that level of specificity, but I think the motion could be a motion to recommend approval of the Froehlich Barrett subdivision consolidation plan, conditioned upon creation of an easement as presented, and also a recommendation to grant both requested modifications.
I'm 63 years old, my memory isn't what it used to be.
I think you can just say so, but yeah, you'll make that motion.
Based on Mr. Robb's explanation, I'll make a motion to approve the Froehlich subdivision.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Oh, yeah, actually, just because I wasn't here last month. I'm just kind of, so on record, to understand these, I was taking notes based on last month, and I think it was answered in Bob's comments, is that, I wrote down here, why not a lot line revision and conservation easement? And I know we're not solving their plan for them, but does that clean things up? Am I allowed to ask that question?
Well, the answer that was given to us, I think, last time was that there is a oil and gas rights issue by the one property owner that if his lot line gets moved and he becomes the owner of that full lot, then he becomes the owner of a lot that he doesn't have the oil and gas rights, then it becomes a complicating factor if you would try to sell those oil and gas rights without sort of like half of his parcel, he would have the rights to, the other half he wouldn't. And based on the advice he was given, that would create a problem for him, which is I think one of the reasons why they are proposing this.
Okay.
So,
It goes back to financial.
of course it does.
Yeah. all right.
It always does.
Uh,
So, one of, whoever owns the lot now, who is part of the bigger parcel, they're retaining the gas rights.
No,
You do not own the gas rights.
no.
So, where did this gas rights thing come from?
The gas rights are for Mr. Sahin.
They have gas.
Well, I mean, if I may, I
Just this
think the
one.
gas rights are not part of this
He
discussion.
has it, but he doesn't know this one.
Right.
So,
I didn't mean to start, I was just a clarification from last month, is what I was asking.
I mean, I think you have to be clear on what our agenda is. And that's
It's, no, it's,
the gas rights are not part of this discussion, that is their private matter.
I'm just,
It's okay.
thank you.
Any further discussion?
No.
All right, may I have a roll call?
Just so we're clear, the recommendation, or the motion
The
is.
motion is to recommend approval,
Correct.
contingent
Condition upon.
condition upon creating the easement and granting of the two modifications. Correct.
Okay,
That is the motion on the floor.
all right. Mr. Aresic,
Yes.
Mr. Maltese,
Yes.
Mr. Hollibaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Bechtold,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
yes.
Mr. Banks,
No,
Mr. Stark.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-1.
thank you very much.
We celebrate?
And also, thank you for your service.
Pardon?
Thank you for your service.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's
That's the
right.
first step.
Yeah, and just for the record, Mr. Froehlich and Mr. Barrett, Mr. Seen, so this will go to the Board of Supervisors next month at their meeting, which I believe is October 15th,
That sounds right.
whatever that third Wednesday is. So this will be on their agenda.
I'm curious whether Mr. Rob or Mr. Shoup wants to offer you a job.
Very well done.
That was a nice presentation.
Thank you so much. Thanks again, thanks for the hints.
Mr. Stark, I have to do it. We have a recess.
Can we, well, you know, we'll take a brief 5 minutes.
I only need one.
All right, we're going to reconvene. Next item on the agenda, Planning Commission Workshop, Land Development Items. Joseph, do you mind
Sure.
giving us a little presentation on this?
Sure, so just briefly, Mr. Stark, everyone received a copy that was titled Proposed Changes to Land Development Items Within West Deer Township Zoning Ordinance. What I essentially did was took what the workshop recommended, provided, you know, the documents, which I also included in the materials, and kind of streamlined it a little bit, put different headings where, like I say, the suggested changes were, including the meaning of words, definitions. Again, also try to make it as easily understandable as possible. I indicated what items were being recommended to be removed from section 185, which is the subdivision and land development ordinance, to chapter 210, which is the zoning ordinance. Also, what items were deleted completely from section 210, and then how section 210-153 development standards, how that would now read with the proposed changes, because that was where the bulk of the recommended changes came from, was that section 210-153. So that last section that you see there is basically what the new text, how it would read with the proposed changes. Now, there are a few things, as you'll see, highlighted in yellow, such as the workshop recommended, a new graphic for the L4 screening. That's still something that would need to be addressed, you know, if this does go through. There's just a couple things like that, but you will notice those, like I say, highlighted in yellow. So essentially, that is what this document is, the 18 pages as you see. And I did not make any changes in doing this, either from Mr. Shoup's review letter that he issued on July 21st. You know, there were some items he highlighted. There was also a little bit of discussion at the July Planning Commission meeting about this item. A few things, you know, kicked around and discussed. I did not make any of those changes either, so this is literally what the workshop recommended. It's just in a bit different format. So if there are anything or any items that the Planning Commission would like to change, amend, tweak, you're certainly still welcome to do that. Again, this is just a bit of a cleaner format. that I know the supervisors like to get things in this way to kind of make things as easily digestible for them as well too. So with that, you know, I don't know if Mr. Shoup would like to add anything from his July letter. I believe that was the meeting you were out, correct, Scott and Sandy? I believe that was that meeting. So I didn't know if Scott, there was anything you wanted to add to that from your letter, or Mr. Stark, if not, then Planning Commission welcome to discuss.
Scott, was there anything you want to add?
No, not really. I mean, I think the letter speaks for itself, which I don't seem to have. Having said that, Scott. Thank you.
We got you, Scott.
So I think to some extent, to the extent that you've kind of discussed what would be in Saldo and what would be in subdivision, correct, Joseph?
Yes.
That, you know, you kind of, which was one of the biggest items, you kind of addressed that.
Was that addressed? I think all you, if I understand correctly, you just sort of reorganized their comments, which still moves everything to the zoning ordinance.
Yes, I didn't address like whether items would go to subdivision, land development ordinance, or to the zoning. No.
So, I mean, assuming the commission's in agreement with that, that might be the next step, is to basically take Joseph's document and maybe put it in an ordinance format, you know, direct ordinance format, that would, you know, make those adjustments from zoning to subdivision. There were some just minor cleanup things that I don't know are necessarily that critical. Again, I wasn't at the July meeting. There was, did have comments about the quote unquote warranty and maintenance bonding that I thought might be a bit excessive in terms of what's allowed under the MPC. That might be addressed. But, you know, I'm just thinking out loud, maybe perhaps a next step might be to, and I won't take everyone's comment, to take what Joseph has put out here now and put it more into the ordinance format, and perhaps we could insert some of the suggested modification language, suggested language that I had discussed, and maybe highlight that for the next round of planning commission review to see if there's anything you want to tweak here and there, such as how Joseph has already done with his yellow highlights already.
So the recommendation, and we're not making a recommendation yet, but what I'm hearing is the next step would be to further change the format into ordinance format, and then insert some of the suggested changes and suggested organizational improvements. Maybe
Essentially codify it.
codify it.
Codify it and take Shoup's.
I'm just trying to think how we move this along, right? I mean, we certainly want to get this in a format that we can put in front of the supervisors soon. Is that something that could be done by the next meeting?
The ordinance part itself would probably be more on Mr. Rob's plate, that actual
Definitely.
form.
Lawyers love billable hours.
But,
Shortage of them out here, I will tell you.
but no, I think it's feasible, Mr. Stark. I mean, that would involve all of us. I was halfway kidding when I said that would be Mr. Rob. But I think that's certainly doable. If this might be the best time, though, if there are anything that the commission would like to change, now would probably be a good time before we go that route, because, you know, at some point there needs to be a decision of, is this what you want to recommend as a planning commission, or are there things you want to change?
If I can just jump in with Mr. Shoup's comments from July, we discussed those, and some of it was clarification to Mr. Shoup of just the whys who did stuff. Some of it was copy and paste from Richland Township from a bonding perspective. We didn't put much more thought into it than like, okay, if we need to clean that up, but we are suggesting we want heavier leverage, if you will, to ensure things were occurring. I think the big thing is the Saldo versus the zoning ordinance. And if everyone will indulge me I'm gonna try to explain it. The way I understand it, is that we, as a workshop, didn't really put any thought process into whether it went into Saldo or went into the zoning ordinance. It was actually an easier copy and paste, because there was 5 items, say 10, in Saldo, to just move it over to the zoning ordinance when we were putting over. Because we actually deleted a good portion of what was in Saldo that just didn't make sense. And we do have a copy of what was in here, what was presented to us. It struck out what was in Saldo. The arguments going that way, or the discussion going each way, I myself am leaning towards moving it to Saldo from zoning, for the sake that it gives us more opportunity to request things out of it. The challenge I see with that, of moving it into Saldo versus zoning, which becomes just fact, you have to comply with it, we all have to stay on board. Because you need a good board to get better things out of the Saldo. If you don't have a good board, it's gonna ask for stuff and just, kind of push a development. You don't get that out of Saldo. So I think there's that kind of, Saldo has the potential to do a lot more for the township and give us more leverage in working with development, but that we have to be comfortable that future boards are gonna be as good as we are to pull it off. That's my understanding of the argument. Legally, is that?
No, I think that's well said, and I think the reason my recommendation was for Saldo is, not only is this a great board, and I think future boards will be great as well, not this great, of course. But the idea, leverage is one way to put it, but also sort of that, almost the iterative process of like, hey, we present this, the developer presents this board says, yeah, but you think about this, this, or this. Well, the ordinance doesn't allow us to do that. Well, we think that would be, what you're trying to do, even though it literally complies, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for this particular development because of X, Y, and Z. So, would you consider a modification to put in this sort of screening or this sort of buffering or this sort of landscaping because of where you're located, even though it doesn't technically fit. The alternative to that is they say, you know what, this is just a terrible requirement, I don't want to comply with it at all. They go to the zoning hearing board, which we have no control over whatsoever, and the zoning hearing board may say, yeah, go, we'll give you a variance from doing any of that stuff. And then you sort of lose, not only do you lose it, the board of supervisors also loses control over it. So when you have it, the modification practice, it's kind of, okay, you get the planning commission to sort of make the sausage, and then you have the supervisors on top of that to say, okay, you have sort of two levels of potentially granting modifications that make the most sense for a particular development. Whereas the zoning hearing board, if it stays in zoning, it's just gonna be sort of thumbs up or thumbs down. And if they present, I don't know what the zoning hearing board's gonna do, so that's why I think it's better to sell it. But you do, as Mr. Shue pointed out, you see them, you do see them in the zoning sometimes too. And so, it's not right or wrong necessarily, but I agree with your rationale.
So what does everybody else think?
I think that makes sense, but I'm just one.
Yeah, I mean, it is one that I kind of struggle with, because I understand the points, but it's.
Yeah, and that is something we'll need guidance, at least the majority, to know how to draft the ordinance form. Obviously, what chapter to put it in.
And that was I didn't understand that on one of the requests from the supervisors to the workshop was that question. And I didn't understand it at the time. When we were going through code and everything, I didn't really know what they were asking us. I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense to move it over here because there's 4 items in salvo. There's more to it.
I agree with you, because anytime we can gain some leverage, especially over developers, stuff like that, the better position we're gonna be in. I wasn't part of the workshop team, but kept abreast of what we've been talking about, and I think it's a good idea.
Just to make sure we had it, is there anyone from the public who wants to comment on this? Okay. I know it's a fascinating topic, but
It sounds like the council's recommending that we have it in some of these portions in the sourdough section, is that correct?
I mean, that's my recommendation, but of course, it's not, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't give the counterpoint, right? And the counterpoint is, if it is in the sourdough, and you have a board of supervisors that's very malleable and just says, you know, hey, we're gonna give a lot of modifications on anything that comes through, then, you know, it kind of defeats the purpose. So that to my mind is the counter argument. I don't think it outweighs, you know, the primary argument in my earlier comments. But I think to those who would say, you know, and I think that's maybe why it ended up in the zoning ordinance, more of those sorts of items ended up in the zoning ordinance historically was possibly that concern. But the counterpoint to the counterpoint is, you know, you still have the zoning hearing board that could also just waive or modify grant variances, any of those things if it's in zoning. So that's, I think those are the kind of the primary issues out there. And if the zoning hearing board's watching this, I'm not being critical of you, I don't know what kind of job you do, I just wanted to, you know, point that out.
So what are we looking for tonight, tabling again? Or
We're looking for
new
direction.
recommendation?
Yeah, we're looking for direction so that we can put something in ordinance form to bring back to this planning commission to provide additional comments or say thumbs up, send it to the supervisors.
we're going to make a motion to continue. What we're asking is that township staff go ahead and do this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need a formal motion.
Yeah.
But as long as we have, you know, let's put it this way, if it was like, you know, 4-3, we weren't sure where the majority was, I would say make a motion just to make it clear, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of dissent all day. It's been kind of quiet over on that side over there, Mr. Maltese and Mr. Reston. Soaking it all out.
So let me just ask this, does anyone disagree? Okay, thank you.
Well, I have something else. I guess going back to Mr. Shute, is there now kind of figuring out the legal aspects a little bit better and are there certain items that you see in ordinances that stay within zoning from a kind of a minor requirement, meaning we have relaxed supervisors, you know, that in the future that, okay, at a minimum, because if it's in zoning, they have to comply with it.
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that jumps out at me that would have to be in zoning. Perhaps, yeah, setbacks, but those would be like parking lot setbacks, so I don't think they would be appropriate in zoning. I don't know. I personally don't know of anything off the top of my head that would have to be in zoning that could not just be a subdivision.
Okay. In this, that, for the record, goes against everything I was focused on, was to consolidate all landscape and buffers into one section. From me reading code in my profession, that take it out of, we had it everywhere, it's in every one of these little tabs, there's landscaping and buffers. So get it to something that's cohesive that development can follow. And there's no ordinance out there that is like that, and it's like we can get one. And so, here nor there, but should I answer my question? If we don't have to split it up, I still like that. I still like keeping it consolidated, moving it out over to Saldo. I'm leaning towards we keep good boards, and that's in the best interest of the township if it goes to Saldo, the way I look at it.
All right. Any additional discussion on the topic? Moving on. New business, being none. Next item, general public comment.
Vicki Austin, Hemlock Street. I don't know if anyone here can answer, was there a requirement for the entrance to the Leto well pad to be paved? I believe the entrance to the Tyke well pad is paved, and the Tyke well pad lies on a much less busier stretch of road than the Leto. There are now conventional water trucks entering during daylight hours and tractor trailer tanker, I'm assuming they're water trucks, some kind of liquid tanker trucks entering throughout the night. And a friend of mine lives near the entrance and says that when he washes his vehicles the very next day, they're all covered with dust because that is just a gravel and dirt driveway. And with the weight of the trucks, it's just getting pounded down. The gravel is just turning to dust. So I can't remember if there was a requirement to pave that, but if there was, maybe we should look at that. And also, he stated, which I hadn't noticed until he brought it to my attention, the drivers have been using Jake brakes in that area. And we had signage for the speed limit for the well traffic, and it also had no Jake brakes. He said that the Jake brake portion of those signs has been removed from all those signs. And he is getting traffic coming up Oak Road and getting ready to make the left and using the Jake brakes, which is almost right in front of his house. So I'm not sure why half the signage, the Jake brake was on a different sign on the same pole as the speed limit signs. So I'm not sure whether EQT, when they took over, removed that, or at what point those were removed, but they were there at one time. So that's just something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, and the planning commission would not be the right body to bring that up to. That would be something you would relay to Mr. Mader and Mr. Shook so they could follow up with the applicant or the developer.
Okay.
And so if there's
I just thought maybe someone remembered, or maybe someone here knew something about this, because I just found out about it today, so I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I don't want to more play Mr. Shook, but that's something that that's sort of the complaint that your office would check out, right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Any additional public comment? All right, next item on the agenda, comments, discussion by PC members and or staff. I do have one thing that I want to talk about. From time to time, different members of this commission have interest in either other boards or other activities in the township. And I think it's important that when we have discussions and speak in front of other things, and I personally did this in front of the zoning hearing board, I think it's very important that we make it clear that when we're there as individuals, that we are there as individuals and not representing the planning commission, unless that is brought up in this meeting and the planning commission has a vote to send a particular member as a representative of the planning commission. So I just want to bring that up to your group. If I could please ask you, first thing, when you state your name and everything, to go ahead and, confront the issue. Hi, I'm Patrick Stark. I happen to be chair of the planning commission, but I am not here representing the planning commission. And then you can speak your mind. Anybody else have anything? All right, moving on. Planning Commission workshop update. So, do we have a review of the September 11th workshop? And is there discussion on the next workshop date and topic?
Yeah, we did hold a workshop, there was about 8 or 10 people, and you couldn't make it, I think, that time. So what we did, we briefly gathered information that we got from Gavin, and then concised that together, and then it was in PDF format, so I think Mr. Burrick has converted that into Word, so that we can kind of take a look at that, tweak it, and put in points. So we just started like open discussion about that.
Thank you. And is there plan to do the next workshop here in 2 weeks as normal? And what date would that be?
October 9th.
October 9th?
Is there public comment?
On the workshop? Sure.
Sure.
Just want to say one thing. And this isn't a surprise to you because this happened as our first go around. This is the second time we went around. But what has transpired is Mary Calabota.
Hold the mic down a little bit.
Okay.
Hear you better.
Crystal Spring Court.
There you go.
What has transpired is, thanks to Mr. Harrison, we did have somebody from the Planning Commission. He was the only one this time, and we've had that previously where we only had one person or two people. What I was wondering is it possible if other members of the Planning Commission who had intended to come are not able to come, you could notify other Planning Commission members so that we could have more input, not only from the public, but also from the Planning Commission? Okay, is that an unreasonable request? I know you were, sometimes in the first go around, we had, one person or two people. We never have had 3 individuals, which we're entitled to have. And I think that would be much better for the whole process, because you would all know what was going, or you would know what was going on if you showed up to the meeting. Not dissing anybody for not showing up. I mean, there probably was a good reason when people didn't come.
When you
But
say entitled to have 3 members, what do you mean by that?
I was under the impression that you could not have more than 3 members.
Right, but I mean, that's the maximum.
Yeah,
right?
that's
I think
the
that fact is, I think you'll recall that, these folks that volunteer quite a bit of their time already, and the fact that you even get one Planning Commission member who's willing to sit down with the public and have this conversation. I mean, frankly, you don't see that anywhere. And I represent a lot of municipalities. What this commission is doing above and beyond, frankly, I think is very impressive, and I think it's not to be critical of that.
Well, I'm not being critical, I'm saying, could we get other people there? If, for example, if Mr. Stark can't show up, if he's supposed to come, if he was going to come, could we get?
Well, I think also, maybe to piggyback off what Mr. Rob saying, I think part of the, and Mr. Banks and Mr. Stark, if that's to speak to this, I think it helps if you have recurring members there, because if you have a one-off, let's say Mr. Harrison and Mr. Maltese are attending this one, but for whatever reason they can't make it a month. Well, if Mr. Bechtold or Mr. Hallward come, they're could be several months behind. They have no clue what progress has been made, that kind of stuff. So I think that plays into it too. So again, you two will be able to speak to that more since you were part of the first go around, but.
Well, it's a thought, it's a suggestion.
I would imagine
I mean,
continuity, what we're looking for.
Correct, yeah.
Dan got called out of town just within, it was like a day before.
The public got spoiled. I mean, you got the best stuff.
Yeah.
But I think Joseph's point is correct that, anyone, I'm going from the last workshop that we did, anyone walked in 3-4 months into it wasn't going to add huge value. They're going to have more questions, which we welcome questions, but you kind of get into the trenches, and that's what the workshop is, like that team environment to, okay, who's doing what, we're going to review what did Jack come up with, and, which was great. It was a positive. But I wasn't here. Did we have 2 planning commission members committed to?
think actually technically had three, Mr. Maltese, Mr. Harrison, and Mr. Stark.
Okay. I was not able to make it.
No, you volunteered to be part of it.
Yes,
But you did say you couldn't attend the 11th.
So I think to answer the question though is we do have three, which is to not do a quorum. We
Right.
can have up to three. Unfortunately, first one, two people weren't able to show.
And the second one, I'm unable to make October.
On the other hand, though, anybody who was added could have some kind of understanding of where we were going and what we were doing. You know, not coming at a call. It's just an idea. I wasn't trying to
No,
diss anybody.
your comment is noted, and absolutely, the more participation we can have from both the planning commission perspective and the public perspective is absolutely the benefit to the workshop.
You don't want to have frustration or lose momentum on what we gained. I mean, I think from a community perspective, board perspective, what we actually, you know, in those months, I don't want you to be frustrated and, you know, give up, because your time's valuable too, so.
Well, I thank you for all your participation. We did have one person, so we're good.
Can I just ask one question about it? Whenever we start putting something together, and some of this stuff came from AI produced information, and some of it came from other ones that you provided.
You replaced me with ChatGPT.
Not me. And someone else did, not me. But when we start concising together and making it look like a legal paper, who do we send that to? Well, like, yeah, it's the first review. To you, Joseph?
Yeah, once you get to a point where when you're at a point at the workshop where you're ready to make a recommendation, then you can notify Mr. Stark, myself, whoever, and let us know, and that way we can get you, if you have materials that you want to provide, like the first workshop did, then you can get that, and we'll get it on the agenda as a business item for the next month.
Because it might help to just say, hey, here's some things we put together. Does this look like the right direction? We can send that to you. And so we don't go off in tangents and go in the wrong direction.
And we struggled with that too in the workshop. You know, like, we have a lot of information, how do we do it? And I wrote it.
Yeah, because this subject, unlike your subject, where we had an ordinance for this, we don't have anything for data
Yeah,
centers.
I mean, but it also needs to take someone just doing it. You know, and then making Patrick, because he volunteered again, make him codify it and bring it into the ordinance.
We'll send it to you.
Yeah, it was a struggle too, and it took a meeting and phone calls to explain what we presented to Joseph. You know, not understanding what we changed without reading the whole ordinance. We're still learning.
Yeah, can I suggest, Mr. Harrison, don't spin your wheels too much on formatting or numbering or anything like that. I think what we're looking for from these workshops is kind of the meat of it, and let staff and myself work together and turn it into the ordinance.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Question for Mr. Rowe. In moving forward, and Mr. Banks, it's too late to, this particular topic of the workshops, trying to play catch-up with another person would be difficult. But in moving forward with a new topic, does it violate the Sunshine Act if 3 planning commissioners are here and 1 or 2 alternates sits in the audience? Can they attend that meeting, or is that a razor's edge?
I think that's too getting too cute with it. Yeah.
Well, and what I would say is, you know, we really didn't have an audience. I mean, it was, we pulled out a table and had like a round table discussion, so unless you literally were standing in the corner, which would be kind of
That
awkward.
was my question.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah. One other thing too, just running back to particular planning commissioners trying to represent the whole here, I agree with that 100%. I did give a presentation at the last supervisors meeting. I was unable to contact Mr. Maltese and Mr. Harrison, but I did sort of get a pseudo blessing about trying to get this master plan in front of the planning commission. But I did write a letter to the school board, and this is all about the dog shelter location and things like that. And I was very careful there. I'm not going to read the whole letter, just one comment. I introduced myself, what we do, and I said, full transparency, I am also a member of the West Deer Township Planning Commission, but by no means am I speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission. So
And that's perfect. Thank
trying
you.
to cover that.
Absolutely, well done. All right, so we have the next date for the workshop. Unfortunately, October 9th, I do have other commitments I will not be able to attend again, so sorry about that. That is the last item on the agenda, so we are adjourned.